Take a breath. Take a breath.
After a long weekend, back at it. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. And the Illinois legislature passing 230 bills out of the House and 203 bills out of the Senate. It was a busy week last week that stretched all the way into the early morning hours Sunday. And then the governor announcing that they had a balanced budget. Republicans pushing back, saying it just continues increased spending and takes more money from taxpayers. All of this while they had all kinds of debates about a variety of things, and we're going to go through some of that. And this week, we got a lot to do to unpack some of the 432 bills that they passed. Now, we're not going to go through all of them, of course, but a fair amount of them doing all kinds of things, like looking at medical aid in dying, or as others call it, physician-assisted suicide. We've also got to talk about the interchange fee. They delayed the implementation of that, the swipe fee that you may have heard about, and a variety of other things, including allowing for some kind of what Democrats said was due process when it comes to the firearm owner ID card. But obviously, today, we're just going to focus on the budget. So stay with us all week, right? Because we're going to be unpacking a lot of this stuff. How businesses are impacted by different types of regulations they're putting on. How the lawsuit space may be impacted by allowing people to sue from out of state and a whole host of other things. There's a ton that we have to tackle here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus. You'll find it. You can also obviously go to thecentersquare.com, get headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. And if you follow me on X, you probably had a pretty good indication of what we were going through yesterday. So go to Bishop on Air on X, and you'll be able to kind of just see all the stuff that I was reporting on over the weekend. Just tons of stuff. I mean, we're talking about whenever the various budget bills were filed, and the tax increase bill, and how much was going to be going to nonprofits, all of that, including some various other stories that popped up throughout the weekend. It was a long weekend, guys. There's no joke. I'm here now, Monday morning. I'm a little tired because, well, let's just put it this way. Friday night, got out of there at about 11:30, but then Saturday night never really ended. We went all the way till about 2:30 in the morning, Sunday morning. And then the governor had a news conference at 10 o'clock Sunday in the governor's ceremonial office at the Capitol. So, yeah, I don't even know how many hours I put in, my team and I, over the last 72 hours. It's a lot. Let's just put it that way. So, got a lot to tackle. All right, so stay with us. We'll do a roundup of the budget and the debate about Illinois' economy and so on. It's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning as we give you Illinois in Focus Daily. largest spending plan in state history, soon to be on the governor's desk, that increases revenue for the state, also known as taking tax dollars from taxpayers, by $1 billion. We're going to see taxes go up on tobacco and vaping products, 45% tax. We're also going to see taxes go up on video gaming terminals. We're going to see a variety of different corporate tax changes as well. But the legislature did not advance a different tax increase that was being floated to help pay for mass transit. That $1.50 per transaction for retail delivery for things like Uber Eats or Instacart or whatever type of food delivery service you have, or even Amazon packages, if it's got something. That measure did not pass. So they're still going to have that debate about consolidating mass transit and trying to make up for that $700+ million fiscal cliff. It was an interesting weekend over the weekend as the Illinois legislature was in session, and we were on the ground for all of it here with the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you for being part of Illinois in Focus Daily. This might be a little bit of a long segment just because there's a lot to tackle, right? The last time we connected live was Friday, and we were going into the weekend ready for that May 31st adjournment. And May 31st, midnight, is when they were supposed to adjourn, but they really didn't adjourn in either chamber until close to 2 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning. And that midnight deadline did trip up Democrats that were looking to consolidate mass transit, as the Senate passed the bill that included a tax increase on food delivery. But the House, they didn't. And they didn't even try to bring it up because the midnight clock came. That changed it over to June 1st, and that means they would have had super majorities to pass that, and I don't think everybody was in the chamber after midnight, so the House did not advance that measure to increase taxes by $150 per transaction for food delivery services. But they did pass a $55 billion budget that has $1 billion of extra tax collections that includes increased taxes on tobacco products, increased taxes on video gaming terminals, increased taxes on corporations, all of that to pay for a whole host of tens of millions of dollars going to chambers of commerce across the state, churches getting money, $200+ million in Democrat district projects. You've got the $130 million for non-citizen healthcare subsidies that taxpayers are going to have to pay for, plus all of the other what they call mandated categoricals, pensions, K through 12 schools, higher education, all of that. And again, the largest spending plan in state history. But things didn't come together quick, or rather in a timely fashion, I should say. They did come together quick, but when it comes to the taxpayers being able to get an idea of what's in the budget, we had to wait. It was late Friday when the actual budget bill was introduced. And even then, it took some time for several amendments to clean things up in the budget. They had a budget hearing late Friday into Saturday. And then they had, of course, the revenue package drop 5 hours before the midnight deadline Saturday. 5 hours, right? This while they're passing hundreds of bills. So altogether in the past week or so, they passed 432 bills out of both chambers. So the governor's pen is going to be pretty busy this summer as they start trickling out those bills to get onto the governor's desk. Of course, go to thecentersquare.com, stay up to date with that. We'll be posting whenever the governor signs these bills, and over the next week and 2 weeks and 3 weeks, we're going to be unpacking some of the 434 bills that the legislature passed. But let's get to the tape, because starting Friday, whenever they ultimately did come into session, they decided to debate a House resolution with State Representative Nicole Grassi wanting to provide some criticism to Donald Trump's plans for Medicaid. Here's how she laid out her arguments.
Many will remember Trump promised the American people that Medicaid would not be touched. But here we are, watching $880 billion in slashes to Medicaid to make room for $4.5 trillion in tax breaks for the wealthiest few.
So she laid that out in a House resolution. Several other Democrats spoke about it as well. Critical of the Trump administration's proposed efficiencies in certain federal spending lines. State Representative Blaine Wilhauer got up and criticized the Democrats.
Medicaid is for the vulnerable. It's not for freeloaders. It's not for lawbreakers. If you're able-bodied with no kids and you want taxpayer help, here's a little bit of advice. Get a job. Get out of mommy's basement. All right? Volunteer, train, do something. Work requirements aren't punishment. It's called being an adult, being a productive member of society. Work requirements don't hurt the sick and elderly. They just stop people from gaming the system that's been done too long. That's not cruel. It's common sense.
So the resolution had some more debate around it, and it talked about how it's critical of congressional Republicans and the Trump administration. Here's more from Nicole Grassi.
Rural hospitals will close. Again, rural hospitals will close. Seniors will lose access to care, and premiums for everyone else who are still insured will skyrocket.
State Representative Patrick Windhorst, reading through some of the resolution, said that it's very hypocritical of Democrats to make the criticisms they're making in a state like Illinois, where they are the supermajority and can do all kinds of things.
The majority party is complaining that congressional Republicans slammed a bill through the House of Representatives in the middle of the night. Are you serious right now? We passed our budget last year, I think we all remember, at 4:30 in the morning. That's line one. Let's go line two. President Donald Trump brazenly lied to the American people, stating he would not cut Medicaid while actually lobbying behind closed doors to pass the bill. Behind closed doors? Where's this budget being negotiated right now? Behind closed doors.
And having watched the legislature for as long as I have, Patrick Windhorst is the Republican floor leader. So a lot of times, most bills, he's right there, right before they get passed to drill Democrats on what exactly the bill does. And he's pretty calm and even keeled, but he was pretty fired up with that particular issue, and several times throughout the weekend as well. So that's how the Friday debate started. And then they just kept churning bills, taking caucus, going to lunch, going to committees, churning bills. And while I'm sitting there refreshing a report page about the latest amendments that are filed, knowing that they've got to file an amendment for the budget, they've got to file an amendment for the spending plan, they've got to file an amendment for the budget implementation bill. Are we going to see an amendment for the transit bill? Are we going to see an amendment for the tax increases? What are we going to... So I'm sitting there throughout the day hearing all the debate, refreshing the budget bill. Ultimately, it got filed, late Friday? And State Representative Brad Halbrook taking to the House floor just before the measure went into committee late Friday. Again, a $55.2 billion spending bill filed officially, literally hours before a deadline to get the thing passed. Here is Halbrook.
The majority party is complaining that congressional Republicans slammed.
The budget that just dropped, 3,363 pages long, was thrown at us with barely 24 hours to read and review. Tucked inside this massive bill, a $7,000 pay raise for lawmakers. While Illinois families are struggling under the weight of skyrocketing grocery bills, rising property taxes, and the cost of living that just keeps climbing because of the reckless regulation in Illinois, the majority party is giving themselves a pay raise with tax dollars. This is not just out of touch, it's insulting, it's hypocritical. I've been in this body long enough and have seen the legislative pay raise suspended by the BIMP bill many times. But the last few years it hasn't been that way. Just in case the BIMP isn't drafted yet, I'm calling on the Democrats to put in the language to suspend the legislative pay raise coming off the backs of taxpayers. Since J.B. Pritzker took office, Democrats have voted themselves over $25,000 in pay raises. This would push it over to $30,000.
It's a lot of pay raises over the past 7 years or so. So when the budget bill dropped, if you followed me on X, you can see and go back and look at some of this spending, 3,300 pages. I went through and tried to find a lot of what was in here. You've got $6 million going to the Indo-American Center for costs associated with building a facility. You've got $5 million for NASCAR. You've got a whole bunch of funds that are going out. So you can go find the breakdown and the link to that budget bill that includes tens of millions, hundreds of millions for non-government organizations. So Friday night, the bill drops. I'm pouring through it. I'm sure legislative staff are pouring through it. And then they went into a committee to talk about it. Here's State Representative Robin Gable saying it was a difficult budget year.
In a very difficult budget year, we have arrived at a balanced budget crafted to be fiscally and socially responsible because we see the decisions in Washington right now as neither. To that end, we made several changes to the governor's introduced proposal. This budget includes nearly $400 million in cuts to the cost of government below the governor's introduced spending levels. Those include $193 million in operational cuts across state agencies and a variety of programmatic efficiencies to save money without cutting services to the most vulnerable. I want to emphasize that these were not decisions made lightly or made hastily. These are strategic efficiencies so we can invest in the needs of our working families and seniors on fixed income.
So this is just the budget bill filed late Friday. Republicans in committee were like, where's the tax bill? How are you paying for this? How much are taxes going to increase? Where are those taxes coming from? They didn't know. Nobody knew. There were all kinds of speculation that, there would have been an ad tax. There would have been, this $150 charge for food delivery. There was questions about how corporate income taxes were going to be impacted. All of this, was there going to be a service tax implemented? Governor J.B. Pritzker had said previously that he would veto a budget that had broad-based taxes on working families, but what was that definition of broad-based? The question came up Friday while they're looking at the budget bill. They're like, well, what about the taxes? Where are the tax revenue coming from? State Representative Will Guzzardi didn't have all the answers Friday night. Again, keep in mind, Saturday midnight was the deadline to pass a budget. And taxpayers and legislators hadn't seen all of the various pieces that were needed. So, with less than 24 hours, they're trying to push this thing together. And Guzzardi says, we'll get the tax information to you eventually.
Yeah, I believe there is a contemplated change to a tax on certain, in fact, maybe all tobacco products. That will be in the revenue package as well, equalizing the rates. Right now, certain types of tobacco products, I believe vape products are taxed 15%, while some products are taxed as high as maybe 44%, and we're trying to uniformize those rates. Okay. And we'll dedicate some of the revenues from that to smoking cessation programs to make sure that our young people in particular are educated on the ill effects of harmful tobacco products.
So again, that was Friday night. Didn't have details about the tax increase that was going to pay for the largest spending plan in state history, but they marshaled it through anyways. And then late Saturday, with just about 5 hours left for spring session to wrap up, that midnight deadline, May 31st, the tax bill gets filed. It's got a 45% tax increase on tobacco products, vaping products, snuff, tobacco pouches, nicotine pouches. I mean, the whole gamut. So it's going to get even more expensive to consume tobacco in the state of Illinois. I wonder how many more people are going to be going across state lines to pick up their tobacco products and whatever else they want to get at a gas store and pick up more cheap gas or groceries or whatever the case may be. So all of this coming together again over the weekend, long hours, while you guys are at home enjoying the weekend, trying to relax with your family, with your friends, and take a load off before you have to go to your day job. Legislators in the dead of night debating the budget, and on the House floor, they brought it up and ultimately passed it. But here is some of the debate. Robin Gable, the sponsor in the House, taking up the measure and pushing it through.
In a very difficult budget year, I am very pleased to be able to present a balanced budget crafted to be fiscally and socially Responsible because we see the decisions made in Washington right now are neither. Erratic leadership in Washington has affected our economic outlook, our revenue projections, and even threatened federal funding for our most crucial services. That's why it's so important that this budget before us today maintains our commitments to the things we value.
Now, obviously, the budget included all kinds of spending on non-citizen health care. It gets rid of the health benefits for immigrant adults program. But it has $130 million in it for the health benefits for immigrant seniors program. Now, that obviously is what's budgeted. Are there going to be budget overruns? Are there going to be other internal issues? How exactly is this going to be held accountable? These are some questions that we'll be watching throughout the months ahead. But State Representative Amy Ellick got up and said that it's a true disservice to taxpayers and how Illinois, year after year after year, passes budgets to where it makes them more and more open and susceptible to tricks and gimmicks and things happening last minute. Here's Representative Ellick.
At least we file our bills publicly instead of throwing them in a 3,500-page bill with 24 hours before we have to vote on it. So here we are at 9:45 or so on a Saturday night, about to pass a budget that we saw for the first time yesterday when we started work here in January on this. We have plenty left to do tonight. We're going to be here longer. The people of Illinois deserve so much better. I hate this for them. This is my 5th spring session, and I leave here each year sad for the state of Illinois and worried about my taxpayers, my schools, my nonprofits. This year won't be any different.
And obviously, the Republicans in the super minority, they can complain and get up there and lodge their criticisms, but they're in the super minority, and they don't have the votes to be able to block these things. So it passes the Illinois House, and then it gets over to the Illinois Senate, where State Senator Chapin Rose said all of this talk of the tight budget year and Donald Trump's administration going to cause serious havoc for the state of Illinois' budget, and a lot of finger pointing to Washington, D.C., and not looking back and reflecting on
Donald Trump make you put $40 million. Donald Trump make you put $40 million for a single school in Speaker Welch's district in this budget. Well, I bet. I know. What's that guy? Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller must have been on the phone with Alexis at Gombe demanding that we get all the free stuff for the illegals, right? The rest of the illegal health care that's still in here. You've got the $40 million for the immigrant integration services. You've got the $40 million for the administrative expenses associated with Illinois welcoming centers. Oh, I know, he must have called up and said, sweep those funds. I bet, I know, he was demanding you sweep OSLAD and take away the parks from the suburbs. Or maybe the sinister man, Orange Man Bad, made you put the $20 million in for the South Side Organizing Project. Let's be clear. $15 billion over 6 years, that's on you. $2 billion increase over last year, that's on you. Billions in tax increases that are driving working families out of Illinois, that's on you.
Now, I want to go back to the House committee that happened Friday whenever they were talking about the budget, because there was another interesting exchange there. You had, of course, Saturday night, Senator Rose saying, listen, Democrats pointing the finger at Trump. Trump didn't make us have horrible finances for decades. But again, that seemed to be what Democrats were saying over and over again, is we've got an unprecedented time with Donald Trump in the White House. Will Guzzardi, Chicago Democratic State Representative, in committee on Friday talking about that and getting substantial pushback from Republican State Representative Ryan Spain.
Profound economic headwinds as a result of the erratic and unstable policies that are coming to us from Washington. The stock market has been all over the place in the last months. Our businesses don't know whether they're going to have to pay staggering taxes on the products that they're importing from other countries. The economic uncertainty, the chaos that exists in our economy requires that we prepare for uncertain times. So the only tools that we're contemplating, including in the budget, are those that are going to allow our state to weather the storm of chaos that has been generated from the administration in Washington, from President Trump and from the Republicans in Congress who have enabled his reckless actions that are imperiling.
Okay, well, come on. I mean, seriously, let's not do this right now. I'm asking, what are the additional tools that are here? I don't want to lecture right now on Donald Trump. You can go up on the floor and do it later. But what are the additional tools that you're giving the governor in this budget?
Those will be in the budget implementation bill, and we can have that conversation then. But we have to recognize I'm not doing something. We have to recognize that we're heading into a very uncertain time, leader, and we have to prepare for that. And our budget does a responsible job of doing
Our
that.
state has been in an uncertain time for decades, and the controlling power in the state has been the same for decades. We've been behind in last place again and again and again. So spare me the lecture that now something has happened here that is brand new, that is preparing us for a whole new world. If we could have been a state achieving economic growth like all of our neighbors, this budget would be in a very different position. And the COGFA deficits and GOMBI deficits that have been projected are far outpacing the arrival or re-arrival of Donald Trump. That's fact.
So obviously, again, you've got the debate about, is Donald Trump responsible for the increased spending in Illinois, for the fiscal management of the state, these fingers pointing back and forth all over the place. Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday, after the budget passed, again, you had debate in the House, passes the House, debate in the Senate, passes the Senate, the tax bill ultimately passing both chambers, the budget implementation bill passing both chambers, the tax increase bill passing both chambers. The governor's going to have a budget on his desk here very soon, but he held a news conference 7 hours after the legislature adjourned both chambers for the summer, early in the morning Sunday. Both chambers wrapped up at about 2 o'clock in the morning. Here's the governor reacting to Republicans saying it's not Donald Trump's fault that the state's credit rating is among the worst in the country. The state has the largest unfunded pension liability. The state regularly lags the rest of the country in economic growth and rebounding from economic downturns. Here's the governor yesterday morning in his office.
Donald Trump didn't cause the problem that occurred before Donald Trump became president in 2017, rather. Illinois was already getting, I think, in the 20 years before I became governor, Illinois, I think, had 21 credit downgrades consistently, not a single credit upgrade. And 8 of those occurred during my predecessor's term. So, this has been a problem for many, many, many years. So I've never blamed the credit challenges that the state of Illinois has had on Donald Trump. I blame a lot of other things on Donald Trump. I mean, he has made it difficult for working families in Illinois.
And the governor also fielding other questions. I was able to ask him about, where we're at on the budget when it comes to questions of economic activity, increased taxes. Did legislators pull a fast one on taxpayers?
I'm so glad you asked that question. As you
know,
know,
we'll get to that here in a moment, because I did ask how the budget ultimately is going to help the state's economy. But here's the question I asked about: did the legislature? How I posed the question was, taxpayers are going to wake up this morning and see the largest state spending plan passed in state history, and $1 billion extra in taxes to pay for it. Some of them are going to think they pulled a fast one and they're increasing taxes. Here's the governor's response to that question.
That's not true. So let me correct you for a moment. As you know, revenues for a state budget consist of a lot of different things. One of the things they consist of is collections, not new taxes, collections. And in this budget, half of that number, it comes from just collections that are owed to the state of Illinois. So, yes, but I'm also talking about, for example, there is a hospital assessment program that, right, where there's a payback from hospitals over the course of time. They owe us, and we are collecting from them in part as part of the revenue that you're referring to, and that, you know, the Republicans have been saying, oh, that's some kind of a tax increase. It's not a tax increase. These are literally, they're owed to the state of Illinois, and they have to be put into the budget as revenue, because that's what you remember the fake revenue that my predecessor put into, I think, 2 of his budgets, where they were supposedly selling the Thompson Center, right? And that was revenue in his budget, $350 million, I think, for 2 years in a row. These are collections. It's not fake revenue, and they are not operating, you know, taxes that are ongoing. So I just want to be clear with you about that. Second, my budget is not that much different. The budget that we passed, rather, yesterday, that the legislature passed, is not that much different than the budget that I introduced. So, you know, the idea that anybody's pulling a fast one, I think it's pretty obvious that we have a state budget that's pretty stable, that we had a tough budget year, and so we made sure that we were moderating spending in the state. You'll see those hundreds of millions of dollars of cuts, and keeping any increases down to sometimes 1% or even 0, wherever we felt we could.
Last one, guys, last one.
So I then asked the governor about the idea of how the state's going to grow with the budget, right? Large budget. State traditionally lags the rest of the country in rebounding from economic downturns. Took us longer to rebound from the 2008 recession and housing crisis. Took us longer to rebound after the COVID crisis. And the governor saying that he's glad I asked how the budget's going to help the state's economy grow. Here he is responding to that question.
Oh, Greg, I've made it a hallmark of our administration and worked very closely with the General Assembly to try to speed up economic growth in the state by making the kinds of investments that are required for us to leap ahead, right? We are a traditional economy that's got a large agriculture sector, a large manufacturing sector. Those sectors, hugely important, and we want to make sure we maintain those and grow those. But we also need to make sure we have some very high growth sectors that we're investing in, and that we're doing everything we can to make Illinois a welcoming state for businesses that want to move, whether they want to move from one place in the United States to another, or businesses that are outside of the country and want to move to the United States. So, example, the Surplus to Success program that is in the budget, that's a program where we're taking state-owned properties. We're talking about prisons that have been closed, facilities that have been owned but closed many years ago, that just sit idle and frankly rotting in their communities, and to try to either reform the properties themselves so that they're saleable and usable, or to tear down whatever's there and make sure that, you know, we've got, because remember, these are properties that have utilities, they've got water, they've got power. These are all the things that a business is looking for often when they move to Illinois, and more of those properties available in great communities like Lincoln, the better off we are. And so that's an example, but I could go through many examples for you about how the General Assembly has introduced, and we've worked with them on this, incentives to bring businesses to the state.
So that's how the governor says the state's economy is going to grow, is through incentives, but things they didn't do before they adjourned, they did nothing about property taxes. They did nothing about high energy costs that are expected this summer. They did nothing about ethics. We just had the longest serving state house speaker in the country get indicted on corruption charges. He's facing 12 and a half years in prison. And the legislature didn't do anything about ethics. Just more spending, higher tax revenues, and the like. So that's an overview of just the spending bill. All right, so be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because all week long we're going to be unpacking a ton of other stuff that happened over the long weekend here in Illinois. I'm Greg Bishop, editor for the Center Square, on the ground in Springfield, bringing you the latest that you need to know to get your day going. It was a long weekend. I'm glad you guys are here for an overview, because there's going to be plenty more to do. All right. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. So, that's the only segment I'm going to do today. It was a long one. It's like a 30-minute segment. But I think it was good to do, right? People already in the chat beating me to it. Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court released their order list today. Let's pull that up, because you've got the Snopes case denied. Snopes v. Brown, statement from Kavanaugh. Maryland, that prohibits AR-15s are something of an outlier. Oh, where are we at? Let's go. Let's up here. Here we go. All right. David Snopes versus Attorney Brown. Anthony Brown, Supreme Court. The petition of writ certiorari is denied. Justice Alito, Justice Gorsuch would grant the petition for a writ. Here's a statement from Kavanaugh saying, respecting the denial of cert, this court ruled that the Second Amendment must be interpreted in light of constitutional text, history, and tradition. The court further determined that the Second Amendment protects those weapons that are in common use by law-abiding citizens. Because handguns are in common use by law-abiding citizens, the court held that the District of Columbia's ban on handguns violated the Second Amendment. The court's later Second Amendment decisions in Bruin and Rahimi did not disturb the historical-based common use tests with respect to the possession of particular weapons. So, they go on to say, this case primarily concerns Maryland's ban on AR-15s, a semi-automatic rifle. Americans today possess an estimated 20 to 30 million AR-15s, and AR-15s are legal in 41 of the 50 states, meaning the states such as Maryland that prohibit AR-15s are something of an outlier. Goes on to say, given that millions of Americans own AR-15s and that a significant majority of the states allow possession of those rifles, petitioners have a strong argument that the AR-15s are in common use by law-abiding citizens and therefore are protected by the Second Amendment. Goes on to say, if so, then the Fourth Circuit would have erred by holding that Maryland's ban on AR-15s complies with the Second Amendment. Under this court's Second Amendment precedents, moreover, it can be analytically difficult to distinguish the AR-15s at issue here from the handguns at issue in Heller. AR-15s are semi-automatic, but so too are many handguns. Semi-automatic handguns and rifles are distinct from automatic firearms, such as the M16 automatic rifle used by the military. Law-abiding citizens use both AR-15s and handguns for a variety of lawful purposes, including self-defense in the home. For their part, criminals use both AR-15s and handguns, as well as a variety of other lawful weapons and products in unlawful ways that threaten public safety. But handguns can be more easily carried and concealed than rifles, and handguns, not rifles, are used in the vast majority of murders and other violent crimes that individuals commit with guns in America. In short, under this court's precedents, the Fourth Circuit's decision is questionable. Although the court today denies cert, a denial of cert does not mean that the court agrees with a lower court decision or that the issue is not worthy of review. The AR-15 issue was recently decided by the First Circuit and is currently being considered by several other courts of appeal, including in Illinois, where there's a significant record in the Illinois challenge of comparing semi-automatic firearms to military-grade firearms. And you can hear in there in the what Kavanaugh's writing here about the distinction between AR-15s and M16s. So, again, you can see here some of the other cases that are pending. You've got a case pending appeal with the National Association for Gun Rights versus Lamont. You've got the Association of New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs versus Platkin. You've got Veramontes versus Cook County here in Illinois. You've got Miller v. Bonta, and is that California? Again, you've also got the case here in Illinois, the state case where the Barnett is challenging with 3 other plaintiffs groups. That was found unconstitutional in the district court, and it's pending in the appeals court. And we've got some filings that are going to be happening this week in that. But anyways, opinions from other courts of appeals should assist the court's ultimate decision-making on the AR-15. That's a huge sign there that a state like Illinois with its case could be instrumental and fundamental in making this decision for the U.S. Supreme Court. Back to the ruling here, denying cert in the Maryland gun ban challenge, Kavanaugh says. Additional petitions for certs will likely be before this court shortly. And in my view, this court should and presumably will address the AR-15 issue soon in the next term or 2. So there you go. All right. Then you've got Justice Thomas dissenting from the denial of cert, and you can go and read that as well. So that's, again, where we're at in the gun ban challenges with the U.S. Supreme Court denying cert in the Maryland case. It took them, 16 weeks or so to actually get that together. It's pretty fascinating to track all of this. We'll continue to track it for you here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I want to give a big shout out to the chat room. Pretty good viewership this morning. I think people really wanted to see what was going on at the State House. So thumbs up to the regulars, thumbs up to those who joined for the first time. Appreciate you guys being here, and I got to try to get some kind of rest today. I soaked in a bathtub with bath salts last night. It's pretty good. Nice way to kind of decompress. I might go for a jog and get in a sauna. I don't know. I still kind of feel a little icky from just working all weekend. Programming note. I'm off Friday. Taking Friday off. All right. So you're going to wake up Friday. There's not going to be Illinois in Focus Daily, but you still will get the weekend edition of Illinois in Focus. So be sure to get the podcast where you get podcasts. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell right here with Illinois and the Center Square on YouTube. Have a great Monday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on air. Best place to get the latest is on X. Posting news stories throughout the day when we're on the ground and stuff's popping. It's a quick way to get it out there, so appreciate you guys and all the support. Get the headlines in your inbox with the newsletter from the Center Square. We're a nonprofit newswire service, so you can donate as well and help us and continue the news and the coverage that you need to know what's going on in Illinois, and we'll break things down for you so you can understand how things happen, because sometimes it can get pretty convoluted. All right, have a great Monday. I got to get out of here. Yeah, my cat you can't hear in the background for some reason. She missed me all weekend, so she's been all up in my business. What are you going to do?